Eighth inning, Chapter 71. Sparky loved licking his balls. Ever since Willie brought him home from the rescue shelter, that had been a constant in his life. Even then, back when he knew only a few things, eating, sleeping, peeing, playing with his balls, licking their heavenly smell was one of life's greatest joys. It didn't change one iota when he became more aware of himself, his surroundings, the world. There are some basic instincts that never change. It's like that show on TV that Willie liked to watch with the cartoon dog that can talk. The Family Dog featured a smart, self-aware dog just like him. He drove a car, traveled back in time with a talking baby, and even dated a human woman. But sometimes that dog ate garbage, or chased his tail, or even played with his own balls. Hollywood understood you can take the dog out of the kennel, but you can't take the kennel out of the dog. Sparky saw other dogs playing with their balls too when Willie took him to the nearby dog park. They all knew the secret too, though their balls weren't officially sanctioned balls made in Central America that were used during a professional baseball game. Goodness, all the smells attached to those balls made them taste amazing to his sharpened senses. Wait, you didn't think we were talking about something else, did you? Chapter 72. When the wine had been flowing freely, they called themselves the Bengal Broads. In past seasons, when things weren't going the way they liked on the field, they called themselves a more derogatory term, usually reserved for female canines. When they felt good about their team's prospects, which was often the season, they were the Bengal Babes. Usually, they were just the Bengal ladies, even though Bengal women was more politically correct. Each of them was drawn to a different player on the team. They called them, amongst themselves, their boyfriends. Most of the players had wives or significant others as far as the Bengal ladies could tell, but that didn't matter. It was all in fun and kept a little bit of their childlike souls alive during their discussions about ERAs, hitting streaks, and where the heck hope came from. Dory's favorite was the young pitcher from Venezuela. Lori's was the veteran outfielder, married with a kid in college, but who could still fill a jersey like he was 21. She was no cradle robber. The leader of their crew kinda sorta dug older dudes. She liked experienced men, though no prospects had shown up at her door since the Clinton administration. Palmer was more her cup of tea. Chapter 73. It wasn't very easy for El Rick to dig into hidden knowledge at the city-county building. Detroit had been around for 300 years, and things like documents and deeds didn't always come wrapped up nicely in pixels, bits, and bytes. Thankfully, his concern was far more modern day. Had he dug a bit into the archives, he would have found odd facts like Belle Isle, the largest city park in America, was originally used as a place to keep livestock safe from coyotes, or that the law against swearing in front of women and children was only repealed in 2002. Though, what's this? An entire hard drive dedicated to the Detroit Bengals? And what are all these giant checks doing around down here? Apparently he hadn't been watching his own news channel. Weeks earlier, they had begun covering the check ceremonies between Lanier and Fidrich. Chapter 74. Being a dog in this new millennium is pretty spectacular, thought Sparky. In the winter, I get to lie around in magic sunbeams that appear and disappear through Willie's windows. 2 or 3 times a day, I get fed. When I have to pee or poop, I just tap the sliding glass door with my paw and my bathroom awaits. I should write about this. Other dogs should know how amazing their lives can be. Sure, shelter dogs have it rough. Dogs in other countries are faced with terrible paw-to-mouth existences. But here in the good US of A, life can be grand. But then Sparky's darker doggy self got the better of him. Deep down, other thoughts that he'd never expressed, thought or knew about, started oozing up from seemingly out of nowhere. Through a very complicated series of maneuvers, he managed to nudge Palmer's computer awake, use his nose to open a writing program, then slowly, painstakingly type out his message to the world. It read in full. Dog blog. I hat cats. misspelling I hate cats. Admiring his handiwork, or pausey work, he lay back down near the air conditioning vent. And then he got mad. He got really, really mad. He was mad at himself. "I've been given this amazing gift, and what do?" he yelped. Jumping up, he ran over and, using his tongue like he'd never used it before, erased his entire entry. Discrimination and hate speech had no place in the animal kingdom. Humans did enough of it for everyone else. Chapter 75. Vince and Charlie made millions on the NASDAQ. They were the very definition of venture capitalists. During the heady late 90s, everything they touched turned titanium. Their passion, though, wasn't money. Starting out as younger men, they had barely a buck to split between them. They'd invested slowly, first in cable sports startups, then gradually in anything technologically cool they could find, as long as it involved sports. Baseball stat calculators and fledgling home computer programs were their biggest winners. They didn't have the technological know-how to invent the complex algorithms or computer coding needed to create them, but they knew people who could and who needed money. They knew baseball inside and out. On March 10th, 2000, they made the decision to sell most all of their holdings. They cashed it all in and planned to set sail around the world in their obnoxiously large yacht, currently moored at the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club out in the Points, east of Detroit. They also planned on achieving their lifelong dream of attending a ball game in every professional stadium around the country. It turns out the yacht would have to wait. On March 11th, 2000, the NASDAQ began its long slide into oblivion, losing more than 75% of its value. People who pulled out just beforehand were extremely suspect. Fleeing the country would only make it look worse. So the guys contented themselves with their baseball excursion. Soon it included minor league stadiums as well. The whole thing took close to 3 years since they spent good quality time in each city. Even Cleveland, if you can believe that. Chapter 76. Detroit had obviously seen better days, but with Rob Lanier at the helm, everyone hoped that happy days were here again. Casinos were picking up a huge percentage of the city's deficit, but the city council just couldn't scrounge up enough money for important infrastructure items. Publicly funded daycares, parks for families to play in, and even streetlights seemed like unaffordable luxuries. Large influxes of cash never just mysteriously happened. Corporate owners didn't suddenly just start giving out $1 million every 5 days. With the sudden infall, the savvy mayor acted fast, with the deftness he was once famous for on the basketball court. Leveraging the cash on hand, he made almost double the amount for the city each time. Sponsors, prospectors, carpetbaggers, and investors started showing up, smelling get-rich opportunities. Buy low, sell high is Business 101. Detroit was at the bottom, they reasoned. It could only go up. "Sure, you can invest in our city," Lanier would tell every business person who approached him. "First, though, you have to show us some good faith. Build us a school or a daycare center or a park." Investors thought he was joking at first. Lanier was a lot of things, but he wasn't a comedian. You simply wouldn't believe how fast something can be built, torn down, or transformed when there's a motivated CEO behind it. Chapter 77. Hope didn't pitch in this afternoon's game. Sure, he'd gotten on base every time, stole second twice when he was walked, and slapped 2 more monster shots into the left and right field seats. But the Bengals managed to lose just the same. Normally when his team lost, which was exceedingly rare this season, the exact opposite of last season, Willie Palmer would be grumpy. Tonight, though? Tonight was the summer solstice. And ever since he'd gotten Hope's note, he couldn't wait for the longest day of the year. Following the address given to him, Willie was a little surprised when he saw it was a bar. The Inn Place. Huh, I get it, he said to himself. The parking lot was pretty empty, just a few cars. The sign on the door read, "No smoking, please," and that made him happy. Hopefully Michigan would soon outlaw smoking in all of its bars and restaurants. It took several seconds for his eyes to adjust to the darkness in the bar. Chapter 78. The Bengal ladies were a little sad about the day's game, but ever since they had that conversation in their online news group, it didn't bother them deep in their hearts like it used to. It was all just a game. Dory even quoted their newsgroup visitor saying, "Remember, ladies, this is just a metaphor." Lori chimed in with, "We really should leave this place and enjoy the beautiful evening. Isn't it supposed to be the longest day of the year?" Just then, the leader of the group slowly started rising from the table, looking at the door. "Venus, what are you doing?" Lori and Dory asked in unison. Chapter 79. As the room began to take shape, Willie saw a figure was slowly rising from a booth in the back. From his angle, it was silhouetted by a large TV screen, replaying the highlights from the afternoon's game. His enormous face was talking to reporters, but it was the fetching, shadowy figure outlined by his big old fat head that his gaze was fixed on. The thought behind every great woman came into Willie's brain involuntarily. Behind every great woman is a man, Najer.